Hello and welcome to Revolutionizing Business Processes with Power Automate RPA, also known as Power Automate Desktop. So, just a little bit about myself to start with. My name is Bear Blake. I am Microsoft MVP for Power Automate in the Business Applications category. And there's a little bit more information about me there on the slide that you can take a look at. And I'll have a link to my website, blog, and other things at the end of the presentation. So let's jump right in. So I've got just basically one or two slides. So just cover the agenda here, the things that we're going to cover. Most of the stuff that we're going to be doing is demonstrations, but just start with a little bit of background first about Power Automate. I'm just talking about a little bit about what it is, and then we'll cover some of the features and jump into demos. And at the very end, I'll talk a little bit about licensing, which is the never-ending fun with Microsoft products. So Power Automate in general, when we talk about it, most people kind of think about the cloud version of Power Automate. There's two versions of Power Automate, and they are linked together. You can link them together. But the Power Automate cloud version, and then there's the Power Automate RPA, or robotic process automation. It's also called Power Automate Desktop in the newest versions. And they're basically two different systems. The cloud version, the one that everybody thinks about, is cloud-based. It runs in the cloud. It connects to a bunch of different external things. And then there's RPA, which is the desktop version. It's designed to run in a local host, on-prem or on a VM or something like that. And it's mostly, while Power Automate Cloud is designed to automate a lot of workflows, automate a lot of processes of moving data back and forth, approval workflows, that kind of thing. On the other hand, the RPA, or Power Automate Desktop, is focused mainly on automating applications. Let's say, for example, you have a legacy application. Somebody logs into it once a day. They run a couple of commands and they log back out. And then they repeat that once a day or once a week or whatever it is. Power Automate Desktop is designed to automate those kinds of processes so that the application itself can open up the legacy app, can automate the keyboard buttons or the key presses, the mouse movements. It can scrape data. It can do drop downs. It can manipulate local applications and automate that kind of process so that you don't have to redo it over and over and over again every day. So that's a little bit about what RPA does, or Power Automate Desktop. So let's talk a little bit about features. So let's shut that off. So we've got here our environment, and with Windows 11, the newest versions of Windows 11, especially the enterprise and professional versions, Power Automate Desktop is generally installed by default. So a lot of times it's already there, but you may have to install it yourself. There's a couple different ways that you can tell if it's there. Obviously, you go to the Start menu, you type Power Automate, you'll see this application, Power Automate App. Or if it's already running, you might see this icon down here in the taskbar. Indicates Power Automate. So you can either open it up here, or you can run it from the app. If you need to install it, you can. There's a website you can download it from. You just go out to the same actual website as the Power Automate Cloud, which is make.powerautomate.com, and you can get a link to download Power Automate Desktop from that location. So as far as opening up, you can sign in. You can use a local account. If you want to connect it to the cloud, you need to use a work or school account. Otherwise, you could use like a normal local personal Microsoft account. We're going to do this one. Okay, so I've entered my account information. Once you know your password, first time you log in, it'll ask you, obviously, if you want to do that. I'll go ahead and sign into all my apps. This is a VM, so it doesn't have a lot of the default stuff in there. All right, so Power Automate Desktop, as I said, its focus is a lot on manipulating files on localhost or automating legacy applications on localhost. You can do a lot of things with screen scraping, that kind of stuff. And we'll walk through a bunch of the features here in a second. We'll skip the tour. It's the first time going through it. All right. So when you first open it up, you've got the same as with the cloud. You can select the environment you want it tied to, if you've tied it to your cloud environment. Otherwise, you'll just see the default. You can run through some settings, various things. You can have it uh, start on Windows boot. Keep it up when you close the window. Um, One of the things to keep in mind with Power Automate Desktop is that it requires control of the machine. So we'll get to licensing later, but just there's basically two modes that'll run in. One is attended mode, which basically means it runs on a machine that's already, where somebody's already logged in. Um, well, sort of runs in the background if you're doing things where it has to manipulate an application. You can't be touching the mouse and keyboard while it runs those flows. So, if you've set up something to open up Excel to copy some data into a spreadsheet, and then close Excel, while that's running, you can't be touching the mouse and keyboard, or you can interfere with the flow that's running. So that's attended mode. Then there's also unattended mode, which requires a much more expensive license, but basically it lets it log in on its own, run the application, do the stuff in the background, and then log out again. Um, so there's a couple different modes. So especially if you're using like the free version. So there's a free version also, which has limited functionality, but it has to run in attended mode, which means you have to have Windows open, you have to be logged in, and you have to run the flows manually. So you'll open up a flow, say, okay, run this flow, and then while it's running, you can't be touching anything. You got to be hands off. So that's one of the downsides with Power Automate Desktop. But if you're fine with that, for instance, if you're running it on a VM or something, it's fine that way. But there are some settings you can go through and make changes on. Um, you can walk through that. There's not much there. There is Copilot here with desktop. It's fairly new. I haven't spent a lot of time with it. With the desktop version, I've spent some time with the Power Automate Cloud Copilot, and it works pretty well. It does a pretty good job of helping you come up with the flows and automate the creation of those. So we're not going to mess with that today. So let's just start with if you have existing flows, and this is a new VM, so I don't have anything here. Same with the cloud. You can see, if somebody shared a flow with you with your account, you can see it here. And then this is fairly new here is examples, so you can see some example flows if you're not quite sure what to do with Power Automate Desktop. You can see some examples that they provide that you can kind of walk through and say, oh, here's something I can start with. Use this as a starting point. But we're just going to go ahead and click create a new flow for now. And I'm just going to do this one to show you some of the features, walk through the features of Power Automate Desktop. Create. So when you create your new flow, it'll open up this editor. And much like the cloud version, it's essentially drag and drop in configuration. So if you want to add new features, you've got a whole list over here of the things that it can do, and you just basically click and drag them in. Just to walk through some of the stuff that's here. So variables, you can set and define variables. You can work with variables, same as in the cloud version. It's a lot of helpful stuff if you need to manipulate data, work with data, various things. There's conditionals, your standard if-else kind of stuff there, switch cases. There are loops if you need to loop through and repeat something over and over again. There's flow control. So this is especially useful for separating your flow into various regions, or adding comments, having it jump around between different locations, that kind of stuff. Or one of the things it lets you do is you can call another flow from this flow. So that's running a subflow. And you have error handling as well. So running a flow, if you need to, again, have it call it and run another flow, you can do it through there. There's interaction with system processes. So if you need to, for instance, set and get Windows variables, ping a remote computer to see if it's accessible, run a local application. So if you're automating a local application, a legacy application, this is the command that you would use to kick that off to get it started. Various things like that around running other applications. This is access to various features of the desktop itself, printing, showing the desktop, playing a sound file, or messing with the recycle bin, that kind of stuff. Scripting. So if you can run scripts of various types and run them from the flow here. So including DOS commands, VB script, JavaScript, .NET scripts, and so on. Working with the local file system, so check to see if a file exists. You can read from CSV files. You can convert files to and from base64, to and from binary. Reading and writing text files, that kind of stuff you can work with from here. Same with folder structures, so manipulating folders. Working with zip files. This I found kind of hit and miss sometimes. It depends on how the zip file was created, but most of the time it works pretty well. UI automation. So if you need to control, simulate mouse and keyboard clicks, then you would use things in here, and we'll demonstrate some of this a little bit later on in one of the other demos. But if you need, for instance, moving between windows, moving a mouse, waiting for a menu to open, or waiting for an application to open, that kind of stuff handled through here. If you need to call out to a web endpoint and get some information from a website, or an API endpoint. Automating a browser, so if you want to do things like scraping a website, you can do it through here. So work queues. So if you see the diamond here, that's one of those things that's not available in the free version. I haven't done really much of anything with work queues, so I can't cover that too very well. Working with Excel spreadsheets. So this actually lets you do more than the cloud version does with Excel. So when you're working with Excel in cloud Power Automate, you're limited to only working with a defined table in a spreadsheet and working with the data in that defined table. This actually lets you work with any cell in the spreadsheet. So it actually is a bit more useful than the cloud version. Same thing with Word documents here. There's not a whole lot you can do with Word documents. It works somewhat, but it's kind of clunky. AI Builder, I've got another version that works with AI Builder. And this is something that's fairly new for desktop, and obviously you can see here the only thing they have available is the GPT chat. But we'll see if they continue adding on to that. So databases, if you need to connect to a SQL database, I think it's using like ODBC to connect. Email, so I've done a little bit with this. It's not particularly useful. It's generally, if you need to work with the email, I'd recommend using Cloud Power Automate. Same with Exchange Server here. So Outlook, launching Outlook, manipulating it, same thing. Again, if you want to work with email, use the cloud version. It's so much nicer and so much easier. So message boxes, you can cause a message box to pop up for the user. Have them interact. Mouse and keyboard, this is a little bit more about manipulating the mouse and keyboard. You can access the clipboard, adding to it or getting information off of it. Manipulating text, so putting text together, whatever it is. And this is, again, we're kind of working with variables, you're working with dates and that. So PDF, so this, again, is another thing that you really can't do in the cloud version, but using the desktop version, you can manipulate PDF files. So you can get text out of it, you can get tables out of a PDF file, you can merge two PDF files together, you can get the images out. I will say one thing about it, there are some clunky things to it, but it works pretty well. The only catch is if the text in a PDF document is saved in image format instead of being saved as text, it doesn't work. You would have to use, for instance, like the OCR stuff, image recognition, to pull the image out and convert the text from that, and it's not great. But if it's text-based PDF, it works really well. You can open the command prompt and do various things with that. You can open the Windows terminal again. OCR again, if what this will let you do if you have like images on the screen, or if you have an application showing an image, or for instance, like that PDF I was just mentioning, if it's saved as an image, then you can use text, or you can use the OCR to pull that text out, and it works. Yeah, it works sometimes. If you need to do some stuff with cryptography, I haven't done anything with that, so I can't really speak to that very well. Working with Windows services, starting and stopping, that kind of stuff. Manipulating XML-based text works pretty well. You can do FTP, so you can connect to FTP sites, upload, download, all that. CyberArk, I haven't done anything with that. Again, Active Directory. So this is the on-prem version of Active Directory, working with that. If you need to connect to an EC2 instance, you can do that here. I haven't done anything with that. Azure, you can do a little bit. I mean, basically, you can just get some information and do a little bit with that. There's not a whole lot you can do with Azure from here. Google Cognitive, IBM Cognitive. Again, those are things I haven't done a whole lot with, but it's getting access to their AI capabilities. Microsoft Cognitive, you can do a little bit here with computer vision and Bing spell check. And those are things that all require additional licensing and things like that to access. Windows logs, you can connect to a Dataverse instance. This is fairly new, it's in preview right now. Connecting to SharePoint, Excel Online, Microsoft Forms. You can do again the diamond indicating that you need to have the premium license for Power Automate Desktop in order to really do anything with that stuff. Teams, Outlook, OneDrive for Business. So I will mention on these two with OneDrive, that's about connecting to the cloud instances of them. So for instance, if you're running Power Automate Desktop on a machine that has OneDrive installed, you can still access the local OneDrive folder. You just do it through the file and folder instances up here. And then obviously with the normal OneDrive syncing, from a local folder to the cloud, that'll happen on your machine. But what this will do is let you, connect to and manipulate the cloud versions. And again, I would say that if you really want to do stuff like that, use Power Automate Cloud. Don't use the desktop version. RSS, so you can get a list of items from RSS feed. And then I've got Word Online, whatnot. So there are more. One of the things you can do is there are you can get libraries. You can create custom actions that Power Automate Desktop can do locally. I won't go into that again this time, but you can do those through this CMOR Assets Library connection here. So if you want to work with something, creating a flow, maybe I just want to do, okay, let's just check if a folder exists. So I'll just drag that on here. And I'm going to put in the path there. I want to say C:/projects. So this is the very simplest version of a Power Automate desktop flow. So you can see it's a little different from cloud version, but again, it's just drag and drop in configuration. So if I wanted to change something here, I come in here. I can do run from here. I can delete it. I can disable it. Disable is one of the great things about the desktop version is you can disable individual steps. That's not something you can do with cloud really. So it's actually if you want to just check a part of a flow, again the run from here. So you can start a flow at any position in that flow. And again, that's something you can't do with cloud, and I wish they would add those features to the cloud version. But if you need to edit it, you can click at it, and again, it brings up the configuration for that particular one. And if I want to run it, just go run. And as you can see there, nothing happened. Well, I mean, it flashed for a minute. It actually did run, but it doesn't actually step you through it. So if you want to step through it, you don't see the output like you do with Power Automate cloud version. So if you want to just step through it, actually what let's do is do the debug, and you can add breakpoints. So what I'm going to do is toggle breakpoint. It's just like kind of Visual Studio. You can click over here on the left, and it'll add a breakpoint to it. So I go run, and you can see it's paused there. So if I want to step through, I'll go run next action. And again, because I don't have anything else, it's a single step flow. Nothing happened, but it did run, and there was, the result. It checked, but I didn't do anything with that result. So what we're going to do, so we need to do something. Obviously, it checks to see if the folder exists, but nothing happens. So say, okay, if the folder exists, let's go ahead and check the file, or get the list of files in the folder. And really should put it into a variable, but so I'm going to get all the files in that folder. And you can see here, one of the things it does is it actually will create a variable for you. So if I want to, if I could create my own variable to store the list of files in, but for things like this, it'll actually create a variable for you. So it will get the list of files in the folder, and it'll put them into a variable called files. So then what I want to do is, next step, we'll say loop. I'm going to put a loop in here. I'm going to do a for each. I'm going to say for each value, so in files, and that's going to store that. Again, it's creating a variable for you. Say, okay, you need someplace to put that current one. So I'm going to put it into a variable called current item. And what I want to do next is go down here under my files, and I want to rename the file. So file to rename, I'll use a variable. So I'm going to do current item dot name is the file to rename, and we're just going to rename it some scheme. We're going to add a piece of text to it, and we're just going to rename it underscore renamed. We're going to put it after the name. And it's, again, one of the things it'll ask, okay, what if that file name already exists? You could override it or do nothing. I'm just going to leave it as default. Let's go ahead and save our flow. And we'll go over here. We've got our folder here. You can see we've got our projects folder with 2 files in it. And what we're going to do is just going to go ahead and run this. Okay, I don't know why that worked better. As you can see here, it added an underscore rename. So it takes a little getting used to the quirkiness of it. I just would have to go back through here and figure out what the correct piece of current item is to get it to rename properly. But you can see it ran through and went through each of the items in the folder, and it added underscore renamed to the name. So that's a simple case of how quickly and easily, just like Power Automate Cloud, how quickly and easily you can get up and running with creating a flow. So let's do another example. Okay, so I figured out why I had this .text because I had this is a new VM, so obviously I had by default it has the hide extensions for known file types turned on. It annoys the crap out of me that Windows does that. Never ever want to hide the extensions. I don't know why anybody would. But anyway, so I've taken these two test files and I've created PDF files out of each of them. Each of them is simple. One line is test file 1. The other one says this is test file 2. So what I want to do is create another quick desktop flow here. So let's go ahead and exit out of this one. I'm going to create a new flow just to show you the PDF, some of the PDF capabilities. So I've got these two individual PDF files, and I'm just going to create a quick flow here to merge them together. So I'm going to select merge PDF files. So PDF files, I'm going to go and I'm going to merge those two together, and I'm going to put them into a file called merge.pdf. And again, if it's handling if the file already exists, do I want to override it? Don't do anything, or add a sequential suffix. We'll just leave the default here. If the PDFs have passwords, you can put that in here. And then you'll see variables produced. It'll create this variable called merge PDF. I'm not going to do anything with that, but let's have these two and just run that really fast. And if we come back out here to our folder, you'll now see merged PDF. And you can see test file 1, test file 2, they've been merged together into a single PDF file. So one of the tricks with this one, and with a lot of things with file manipulation of various types with Power Automate Desktop, the order makes a difference. So you can say I've got test file 1, test file 2. It'll actually use the last file first and go from there. So if I were to swap these around, it would put them in a different order. So the order of what how you're feeding them into the process makes a difference on what the output will be, and that takes some getting used to. You just kind of have to play with it until you get it right. So that's another simple one. Just doing the PDF merge of operations here. So okay, so for the next thing, we're going to look at some app manipulation. So let's start with just a browser launch. So let's do browser demo. And what we're going to do for this we're going to do browser automation. So we're going to do launch new Microsoft Edge. We're going to launch a new instance. I'm going to go to there. We're going to launch my website, my personal blog. You can do things like clearing the cache and the cookies. If you want it to wait for the page to load, you can do up to 60-second timeout. If pop-up dialog appears, do nothing. So this kind of stuff, just some basics for getting that going. And then what we want to do is introduce a wait. So let's do, I think that's under run flow. No, not run flow. Flow control. There we go. Wait. We want to wait for, let's wait for 5 seconds. And then we want to close the browser. Just as a beginning instance here. So again, you can see that when it launches that, it's going to create a variable to store a reference to the instance. And then we want to close it. So save that. Let's just get you started with the idea of how it can manipulate applications. So we'll go ahead and do run. So I take my hands off the mouse and keyboard. You can see it launches the browser. It's going to wait 5 seconds, and then it's going to close the browser. Should be just about now. Of course, it does not always work right. Most of the time it does. There's probably something that it's catching that's not quite sure if it's fully loaded the page yet. All right, let's see. Let's go over here and just see if we can figure out. Yeah, it's still in the first step, so it has not figured out that the page is fully loaded. So again, that's part of the problem with that. So let's just let it go here. It'll time out eventually. There you go. So failed to assume control of Microsoft Edge. So communicating with Power Automate web extension failed. So again, so for this browser manipulation, one of the things that it does, it has these plugins, which apparently in this particular case is not working correctly. So the extensions here. Oh, probably because it is not turned on. Something wrong with it there. Okay, hopefully that means it'll work now. Excuse me. Let's try that again. So it opens it up. It's got that. Okay, you can see already in the background, you can see it drop down to the next one. So it's going to wait 5 seconds and close it. So there we go. So let's see what else we can do with it. Let's add another extension here. This will let you do Copilot, but we don't want to do that. We want to go to a new web page. And we want to navigate to a different URL. Let's say, let's go to google.com. And let's say once it's there, let's just wait another couple seconds, and then close the browser. So let's run that. So you can see it opens the web page. It's going to wait 5 seconds. It's going to go to a different page, and it's going to close the browser. So there are various things that you can get information about a web page. You can extract data from a web page, take a screenshot. So maybe you want to do some screen scraping, load a web page, take a picture of it. So let's launch new web page. Actually, let's do that after the wait. So web browser instance, capture the entire web page, save mode clipboard. Let's save it to a file. That. There, and file format BMP. Save that. And it's going to capture it in the image file. So let's go to File. We need to save that file to the disk, I believe. Or does it automatically save? I'm trying to remember. It believe actually it automatically saves that to a folder somewhere. Just got to remember the details. Yeah, so what I need to do is save it to the full path, image path. So we'll save that. So go ahead and run that again. So close the web page. Take the screenshot. Let's go into Google. Wait a couple seconds, then close. And you can see if we go over here, save that file image, and save the whole web page as an image. And it's got that annoying pop-up, but that's fine. So let's take it to the next step. So let's get rid of the Google. Delete that. Delete that. Okay, so that's just some simple manipulation of the browser. So what we want to do now is let's just go ahead and close that. Save that. Okay, so now what we're going to look at is automating an application within Power Automate Desktop. This is kind of the bread and butter. This is what it was designed to do. This is what it excels at the best. So let's go ahead and create a new flow. I'm going to call this UI demo. Create that. And what we want to do is run an application. So under here under System, we're going to run an application. Let's pick an application to run here. And so the application that we're going to be playing around with, they have, if you go out to the Microsoft Learn website and the Power Automate online workshop training, if you find that, they have this little app that you can use to play around with RPA, which we're going to use that. So first thing we want to do is launch the application. So let's go down here to program files. There we go. Contoso V, Contoso Invoicing. And it's this legacy invoicing app.exe. So you can see this is an old style Windows application. This kind of give you an idea of messing around with those kind of old applications. So we'll do that, and for now, just to show you that how it works, we're going to add flow control. It's going to add a delay here of 5 seconds, and then terminate process. We want to kill the application. So what we're going to kill is why are you not selecting the variable? There we go. So you see, again, when it runs an application, it'll store the process ID into this app process ID variable that it creates. And then we want to terminate here after 5 seconds. So just to show you that running, let's go ahead and hit run. So you can see it launches the application, wait about 5 seconds, and then it kills the application. Which did not kill the application. Why is it still open? Okay, well, we're not going to worry about that. Purposes of this, so let's just go ahead and get rid of these steps here. I've also got it installed here, so we got that. So in order to interact with one of these applications, these desktop applications, you need to identify various elements that you want to interact with on the screen. So for instance, say it opens up to this one, and there's various buttons here that you can interact with, a help. There's menu items over here on the left, or a tree view of data here, things you can interact with. So to interact with these things, you have to identify what it is that you're going to interact with. So you click on this UI Elements button over here, and you'll see this thing pop up that says Add UI Element. So use this to identify the things that you want to interact with. So it'll hide this stuff and it'll pull this up over here, and it'll say you have for this I haven't picked any UI elements yet. What you can do is you can have, as you see as I move over these things, it highlights it with a red box, and helps you to identify what it is. So let's say, I want to interact with, this box here, this account name. So I'd hold the control key and press in that, and you can see it's now edit text box. And then let's take all three of these. And you can see these various things. I mean, it doesn't know, what the ID is for each of these. So for these, if you click on them, once they're over here, you can see it shows examples of what's there. Go ahead and click Done for now. And what we're going to do is, just to help us identify these a little bit easier, I'm going to rename the steps. So for this, rename account name, rename primary contact, and rename that contact email. So you've identified the various elements, and you can do buttons, you can do text boxes, various things. And then what you will do is you'll tell it to interact with these things. So go ahead and hide these. If you go down here under UI automation, this is where you'll do that kind of stuff at. So you can see under here there's a couple of different things you'll have options to. Let's expand that out so you can see that a bit better. So there's data extraction. So if you want to get data out of those elements, you would use one of these various things. You can do things like take a screenshot. You can pull data from a window. You can, for instance, get selected checkboxes, that kind of thing. If you want to edit information, it'll be here under form filling, or this is also where you would change values. So pressing a button, editing a text field, checking a checkbox, that kind of thing will be done under here. So let's say we want to just go ahead and use this default here, 105, just for the simplified version here. With what comes up, we want to edit some of that information. So what we're going to do is populate text field in the window. So drag that in here. When you drag it in, it'll ask you what you want to edit. So we're going to edit the account name. We're going to change the text in there to we'll change it to my name. That'll be the new account name. And we want to change the text in the contact. Call that there. And we're going to change the text in the last one. Contact email. Okay, so we've got these three different fields that we want to change. So you'll also see over here, obviously that doesn't change anything. Just by putting that text in here, it's got a save button, of course, old school. So let's add that to our UI elements. So again, we will highlight this here. And you want to be careful here because sometimes it will catch this as an image and sometimes you want the button. So click done. And we'll name this save button. So if you want to click a button, then we'll do press a button in a window. And we're going to press the save button. So let's go ahead and run that. So as you watch, you can see it's actually going through each of those, and it's almost like you were typing in yourself, but it moves fairly quickly. But it'll do a little pause in between each one. And of course it saved that. So if I were to go over here to another box and then come back to the accounts, you can see my information's all in there now. So really, that kind of thing is how easily you can get it to work with and manipulate applications in the on your desktop. Those old school applications, those old VB6 applications, those old Java applications. It doesn't matter. Any kind of Windows application, you can set it up here as you work through it, and it's just a matter of configuring, telling it, these are the fields that I want to change, these are the buttons I want you to push, and and this data, the text, data that I want you to put in there. One of the things to remember with the with this populate text field in a window is it does not let you do special keys like the enter key, control key, that kind of thing. If you need to pass in those kinds of special keys, then what you can do is go down here to like mouse and keyboard and send keys. So say if I want to press enter after one of these, then again you can select UI element and contact email, and then insert special key, miscellaneous, and enter. So if I did that, then it would be the same as hitting the enter key. After it, it'll update the text in the window, and then it'll hit the enter key from that window or from that text box. So really, that's all there is to it. Getting started with updating applications. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do with that. Let's say we wanted to, after we update the text information, and you can do things also. Say after that we wanted to move to the cases and update information there. Then you just you identify that as the next button to click. And let's go ahead and do a little bit of that just to show you real quick here. So again, you want to make sure that you're selecting the right type of element. So for instance, in here you can see there's text, there's image, but in order to select that, what you're really wanting is the tree item. So these old applications, you want to make sure that that's the kind of thing that you're selecting. I don't think, yeah, that was the right one. That. I can delete that in a minute. And then again, if I want to go to records, select the tree item for records, and click done. So I don't want that. Rename that, that's cases. Just, you can use whatever name you want there to help you remember what it is that you're manipulating. And that's records, tree item. So if I want to move back and forth between those, I would do, let's go back up here to make UI automation and press button in a window. I'll go to cases. Oops. Okay, I'll change that in a second. Records. I'll move that back up here. And get rid of that because I don't need the enter key. Let's go back to cases. Just show you it moving back and forth between the various menu items. Okay, so let's run that. So you can see it's updating the text boxes. It hits the save button, and it's going back and forth between cases and accounts. Although it doesn't look like it triggered it right. So yeah, for a lot of this, it just takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of messing around with it. Maybe I need to re-identify what those are. Maybe I want it on that instead of the other. So if I change that to go to cases, change that to go to records. go back to accounts and see what that does here. Okay, let's try running that, just see what pops up. So we're updating our text again. There we go. See, now you see it moved to cases, now it moved to records. So like I say, sometimes you have to play around with it to figure out which part of it you need to click, as opposed to, uh, the wrong places to click. It's, with a lot of these, just because there's no real good pattern to or set rule to follow with that. You have to just kind of play around with it and keep trying things until you figure out what works. With a lot of these old applications, because each of them kind of works differently. A VB6 app might respond differently than a Java app, which might respond differently than an old MFC app or whatever it might be. Um, MSC, whatever they were called, those old ones, the old Windows apps. Um, so it's just a matter of practice and playing around with it until you figure out for that particular application the things that you need to do, how you need to manipulate it. But once you get that down, once you figure out those steps and those processes, then it's a very simple thing to do. So if you want to download and play with that particular application, if you go out here, this is the current uh, link for it. So if you go out to the Microsoft Learn site and you look for this Power Automate Automation Online Workshop, and then this files for completing exercises. So it's a zip file with a bunch of different files in it that you can download. And that will, among other things, will give you this Contoso invoicing app as one of the applications that's inside of it. So let's close that out. Save that. All right, so to close it out, let's talk a little bit about licensing and what the current state of that is. Um, so there are a couple different licenses. Like I say, there's the free license, which you should be able to install on either Windows 10 or Windows 11. It works on either one. Like I say, most of the Windows 11 versions, it comes pre-installed now as part of that. Some of the newest versions of that, not all of them, but most of them. So when I showed you at the beginning of the video how to check whether it's there already. If not, then you just go out to make.powerautomate.com and you can download the Power Automate desktop, or you can also go to the Windows Store and download it from there. Sorry, the Microsoft Store, it's called now. Old habits. But there are also paid licenses. So the free license, like I say, you can do a lot of the stuff that I was showing you today. Um, it lets you, it has some limitations. It can't connect to anything in the cloud, so you can't connect it to Power Automate Cloud. You can't connect it to, like say OneDrive or anything else like that out on the cloud. Word Online, Excel Online. For those, you need one of the paid licenses. But there is a premium license that you can get for $15 a month per user. For that one, the user has to be logged into the machine. It has to be not locked. If the machine is locked, the flows will not run. And that's the attended license or the attended version. And then there's the unattended version, which there's a couple different ones there. If you are providing your own VM for it to run on, then it's $150 per month per robot, and it doesn't have to be logged in for that, but it lets it lets it run things by itself without you having to be there or interfering with it. So that's a good thing where if it's something where you want to make sure it gets run every day, or however often you want something to run, that's probably a good route to take, just to take it out of the hands of somebody having to kick it off manually or having to be there on the machine for it to work correctly. And then if you want Microsoft to provide the VM for you, then it's $215 per robot per month. And again, that's unattended as well. So that's a bit about. So that's the current version of the licensing for Power Automate Desktop or RPA, and then that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions, you can connect with me through my blog, through LinkedIn, You can check out my videos on my YouTube channel, or on, I'm still on Twitter as well at Barrett Blake. Um, but you can find that from my website as well. So, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. If I've got a little bit of free time, I'm happy to help. Happy to help with anything if I can. Um, just depends on the day or the month. So thank you again, and I appreciate you checking out my presentation. I hope you have a good day.